Cash bail. It's been one of the hallmarks of the American criminal legal system for hundreds of years, but it also undermines one of its key principles, the presumption of innocence. Cash bail is fundamentally unfair because poor people are held in jail solely because they can't afford to buy their freedom. In New York City, one study found that a staggering 87% of people represented by public defenders could not afford to pay bail of even $500. This means people are either held in jail for months and in some parts of the country even years on minor offenses, or they choose to plead guilty to crimes they didn't commit or for crimes a prosecutor couldn't prove at trial just to get out of jail. There's no one better to talk about this issue than the head of the Bail Project, Robin Steinberg. For years, Robin has been the head of the Bronx Defenders in New York City. And as a public defender, she's witnessed firsthand the effects of cash bail on poor people, especially those of color. Robin, thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so we've talked about this two-tier criminal legal system in this country, one for the rich and one for the poor. And a key part of that is cash bail. Wealthy people, no matter how serious the charges they face, are not held in jail pre-trial because they can afford to pay cash bail. But poor people charged with very minor offenses can't afford to pay the bail as low as $500. So for our viewers who may not understand cash bail, please explain what it is, how it works, and how it's fundamentally unfair.
Sure, it's a great question. I appreciate it. And you're quite right at the beginning when you talked about one of the core principles of our system is that you are presumed innocent. So fundamental to our entire legal system and our criminal legal system is that until the government is able to prove that you are guilty, right, and prove you otherwise, until you have your day in court, you are innocent. Now, when you think about that, here's what happens when you're arrested, right? You get charged with a crime and you're brought into the court, and an amount of money is set that you must pay up front for your freedom. That's called bail. So judges set that amount at the very beginning before any evidence has been brought forward, before you've had your day in court, when you are supposed to still be presumed innocent. The idea about bail was intended to be that if you paid cash bail in an amount that you can make, right, that would incentivize you to come back to court. That, of course, is a myth that we've been able to debunk at the Bail Project, having now posted bail for over 16,000 people across the country with philanthropic dollars. What we know is that cash has nothing to do with why people come back to court. They come back to court because they know it's in their best interest to come back to court. But that was what bail was originally created to do. Over the years, judges have set bail in an amount far more than people can pay. And because our criminal legal system targets predominantly people of color from low-income communities, people are less likely to be able to pay the amount of bail that a judge sets, which is almost never set in an amount that's in relation to the resources they have. So bail then became the primary driver of mass incarceration. Right? Jail growth in this country is the result of cash bail being set in an amount that people can't pay.
Now, can you speak specifically about the racial disparities that are baked into the cash bail system?
So like every single aspect of our criminal legal system, from policing to charging to cash bail setting and sentencing and conditions of confinement and probation and parole, racial disparities and systemic racism are present at every single stage of the system. If bail is set and you are black or brown, a judge is more likely to set bail in a higher amount than your white counterpart, and you are going to be less likely to pay that bail because of systemic racism and all the economic inequality that we know exists in this country. So bail just further perpetuates systemic racism.
Now, one of the biggest arguments people make in defense of cash bail is that it ensures public safety. I think many people mistakenly believe that bail is a form of punishment rather than designed to ensure that a person returns to court. How would you address that?
Well, sure. I mean, if you want to talk about public safety, let's do that. But bail, cash bail, isn't about public safety. It's just about resources, right? So two people charged with the same offense, the only thing that will keep one person in and let one person go free is how much money they have in their bank account. So it was never really about public safety. It was about providing an incentive. That's not the purpose of bail. I also really, when you think about it, we should challenge the assumption that incarceration at any stage is actually what makes us safer, particularly the pretrial context before anybody's been convicted of anything. We incarcerate in America more people than anywhere in the world, and of course, those incarceration rates are disproportionately reflecting Black and brown and marginalized communities. But we incarcerate more of our own citizens than anywhere in the world. And so if incarceration worked to make us safe, we'd be the safest country on the planet, and we clearly are not. So, we have to challenge the entire assumption that incarceration is what is making us safer. Also, it's important to remember that those mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers that are locked in those jail cells who have not yet been convicted of a crime and who have not had their day in court, they are part of our public also. And we know the damage and devastation and harm and violence that comes to each and every one of them, and the intergenerational impact it has on people's families when they're incarcerated, even for short amounts of time in the pretrial justice system. There's, in short, no evidence at all that releasing people pre-trial, if you do it with supports in place and you do it where people are given access to the resources that they need to thrive, there's no evidence at all that public safety is negatively impacted or that crime will somehow rise. That's just a myth.
Well, Robin, this is a conversation I definitely want to keep having. So please consider coming back and talking to us some more on this. Robin Steinberg, founder and CEO of the Bell Project. Thank you so very much.
Thanks so much. It would be my pleasure to come back.